How much of your screen personality is really you? Are you able to take care of yourself, would you say?
I will answer this, first of all, with a joke, if you don't mind. Oftentimes people come up and say, hey, Bruce, are you really that good? I said, well, if I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm no good, you know I'm lying. But, all right, going back to be truthful with you, let's just put it this way. I have no fear of opponent in front of me, but I'm very self-sufficient. But it will not bother me. And that should I fight, should I do anything, I have made up my mind, and that's it, baby. You better kill me before.
As we're going up the elevator, we start talking about our philosophies and our techniques. As we got to the 7th floor, which is the one he was staying on, I was staying on the 9th, we were still talking, so we stepped out into the hallway, and we started talking. This like 11 o'clock at night, and we worked out till 7 o'clock the next morning. And it seemed like it was an hour had gone by. This guy had so much knowledge, so much technique, that it was just a fascinating night.
How would you rate Bruce Lee as a fighter, having seen him work out?
Well, I'd have to do that pretty much in relationship to his body size and height and everything else. But I would say for his size, height and weight and everything else, I think he was very tough to beat. He was very, very good and could naturally handle, I think, people much bigger.
For a guy who only weighed 138 pounds, and he weighed less than that when he passed away, he hit extremely hard. He could hit as hard as a heavyweight. He had real fast twitch muscle fibers, something he's born with. He trained hard. He worked on a lot of his stabilizers and muscles, and especially his speed. I always thought he was like the fastest guy who ever stood in front of me. He had incredible, what I call kind of a Zen level of consciousness. In psychology, we call it the implicit level of consciousness. You didn't know when he was going to squeeze that trigger. And he always knew when you weren't ready. He had blinding speed, especially with his hands. And I know that's because he stood in front of me and he popped me a few times. So I've always told people, I know how hard Bruce Lee could hit. I know how fast he was because he nailed me. And I've always told people, I know what real Jeet Kune Do was because I got popped with it a few times.
He winds up going to San Francisco, and he met this guy named Bruce Lee, and my dad was impressed with his skill set. He noticed that Bruce Lee was very cocky, he's very arrogant, he's very confident individual, but he immediately said, but he had a right to be. He had a skill set that was phenomenal, and he wanted to feature his skill set at a tournament that he ran for a number of years, like 40 years we ran the tournament.
Well, one of my favorite friends was Bruce Lee. It was I who got Bruce into the movie industry, because when I saw him move, he was a very slate-built guy. But when he hit like a mule. That's just because he was able to learn how to bring all faculties together at a specific point in time.
He is not a stylish boxer. Like he would not be like a Sugar Ray Leonard. Mm-hmm. If I classified him, he would be like a miniature Joe Frazier. Mm-hmm. And he would be more like a Roberto Duran, but not the form of Duran. But because he was just kind of a slugger too. Mm-hmm. That's funny, because for his size, you would think he'd be a technician. Yeah. But when he really got into it, he was like Joe Frazier. And if you watch him hit the heavy bag, because I've been around boxing, it's not the stylish, polished guy looking on heavy bag. It's just like a guy who's just really upset about something,
Yeah, I've watched those videos, and every shot is a slam.
He's just like powerful. And that's the way he was. That's not saying that when he played with me, he could be very finesse, because I was not in his league.
Hey, this is Seafood Bruce's original heavy bag that he used back in the 60s. It's still holding up pretty good, so it's quite big. I think it's pretty close to 200 and some pounds.
I mean, you got to put the whole hip into it and snap it and get all your energy in there and make this into a weapon.
Well, as far as Bruce is concerned, he was really a tough guy. He's really tough. A little cocky at times, but he had something to be cocky about. And very, very quick, very fast. The power that he had in his punch was tremendous. He wasn't a very big man, but he was a very powerful man. Yeah.
This young man at 18 was a holy terror in terms of athleticism. I mean, he was all Hong Kong champion cha-cha dancer. His brother was all Hong Kong champion fencer, so he became an avid fencer. And of course, he did a lot of boxing on the street, you know, in the fights and things. He had a pretty good hold on boxing, and so this guy, when he came over, he was an all-around athlete.
I saw Bruce Lee's demonstration in 1964, the Long Beach tournament held by Mr. Ed Parker. And I was really impressed with his speed, ability, and the way his personality. I was just fortunate to be there and to see his demonstration. And a lot of people mentioned about the 1964 film. And I said, I was there. I saw that. The dedication he has or training is just in awe. I couldn't believe it. It's a day from morning to evening. He was systematically training the arm, the legs, this and that. And I was told that when he make a left punches, how fast his punches are. Well, he did 2,000 punches a day. 2,000 punches. Now I tried one time, 500 punches. My shoulder's worn out already. You know?
He could hit you with every pound he had. And then his whole trick was he could hit you 4 times faster, and that was his thing. When I first met him, he told me, I can hit you 4 times before you hit me once. And I doubted that. But he did. Okay, that's good. Till the time I got in my stance, he had me hit. So, I mean, that's how fast he was.
He was fast, he was powerful, he was very perceptive. He could read you before you threw a blow. I sparred with him briefly. It was like trying to fight a shadow. And he closed the gap on you like a bullet. And never could figure out how he did it, but I think it was all up here. Mental. He could look at your eyes and tell just about when you are in between thoughts and beings, and he's already got your number down. See, that's how good he was. And I think size wouldn't have made too much difference because he would have been very elusive. He wouldn't have, like he said, you know, he said, you kick like you punch like you kick. And if you go against a big guy, you speed. You go a small guy, you overpower. And so he was just a natural fighter.
When I think of Bruce and use the term fighter versus a tournament player, you have to look at why, and it's mainly because my experience with Bruce was as a fighter, as a street fighter. I was never a tournament player. All I knew was a fight. Now, I didn't fight relative to size and weight and division. It was a fight against person. Now, if the person was 135 or 335, it didn't matter. It was a fight between 2 people, and whoever was standing would win. Well, Bruce, 135 against Jim DeMille, 225, Ed Hart, 240, 250, professional boxer, kill you with either hand, Jesse Glover, super athlete, judo, karate, all of us street fighters, never been in tournaments since. Jesse, of course, went into judo tournaments, but tournaments as we know them today. Bruce could beat us all. And I don't mean it would be a struggle. I mean, he could beat us all and we didn't have a chance. This was in an actual fight situation where I tried to hit him. I tried to knock him out. We tried to hurt this kid because he was always embarrassing us in demonstrations and just in general.
I was very fortunate to have, in my opinion, the greatest martial artist ever lived, Bruce Lee. I'll talk to you about that later. Probably have questions for me on that. But in my opinion, I'll tell you right now, I've fought the best. I trained with the best. I know great martial artists, and there's never been anybody, in my opinion, like Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable, guys. You don't know how great this guy was. People don't really know.
Well, I think they do, actually, because he's still the icon. I mean, as Fred Weintraub said, when you say Western, some people may think of John Wayne, some people may think of Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
But when you say martial arts,
that's right.
Bruce Lee's the first name.
That's right. And I'm not just talking about actor.
Right.
I'm talking about martial artist.
Right.
Guy who knew his stuff. This guy was. I don't. There's stories I know about Bruce Lee that I don't even share because I have respect for the people, other people in martial arts, and it's not necessarily name names. I know who Bruce Lee sparred with.
Yeah.
I know. They won't tell you, but I know people he sparred with. I never mention their names either. But Bruce Lee was untouchable.
Yeah. Is it in the book? Is it in your book?
Nope. I mention this, but I never tell the names.
Can I get everybody to swear to secrecy? Can you say one name?
Nope.
Can you mix them up? Can you have a jumble of a name?
I have too much respect.
Can I guess?
No, you probably could.
Yeah, I probably could. Because I know a lot of people he sparred with.
I wouldn't
as well.
confirm it.
Yeah, there you go. That's fair enough.
But I just have too much respect for other guys.
Yeah.
In martial arts.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
But he was the speed, the timing, the technique. Unbelievable. Bruce was the type of guy that he would spar with you. He could spar the guy. I'm not saying whoever, John Doe. John Doe the great. Great champion. Okay? John Doe.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter what size. You can be a lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight, didn't matter, Bruce. Bruce was lightweight. What Bruce, 155? 145.
Yeah, soaking wet. Yeah.
Like one, maybe. Yeah. And how tall?
5'7", maybe?
5'7", no more. He could spar with anybody, any size. Didn't matter what size you were. And he would spar with you in hands and feet. And then he'd say, okay, let's just go hands. Just hands. Guy was incredible. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then he called me up and he said he'd like to do a movie with a real good fight scene in the movie. I said, well, the only way we can have a fight scene is if I get to hit you once in a while.
For a while, I was able to get that punch in on Bruce Lee, but he would always go into that little Zen alpha state, and then you couldn't get anything through. You probably couldn't even hit him with a bullet. He was so fast. You probably couldn't even hit him with a bullet. He was so fast.
How would you assess Bruce in terms of his as martial artists go in the 20th century? Where would you rate him?
I would say he's ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Even if he was here today, he still would be ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Because the guy, he had the intellectual ability that 99% of martial artists didn't have. Yeah. Most of it operated on a physical level. And I call it not only mental, but spiritual level.
Yeah.
You see.
I was speaking with George Lee this past week, and he told me that Bruce used to do one-arm chin-ups. He said he'd do like 50 of them.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's nothing that guy couldn't do because, he believed in possibility thinking. He's if you, because I remember, and he's very intense and passionate with his, with his training.
This guy was probably the fastest person I've ever seen. And he had that strength. I mean, the 1-inch punch, for instance, he would knock you clear across the room. He could stand 5 feet away from you, leap in there and tap you on your face and be back there standing before you could move, before you could intercept it. And then every time they'd say, well, wait a minute, I wasn't ready, do it again. And he'd do it about 2 more times and they'd say, oh, hell, I can't put up with that.
Explosive power and speed, I was in awe. Everybody was. His hand sensitivity trapping, I've never seen things like that before. His grappling, his punching, his kicking were never seen before or witnessed. And I told my buddies, we ought to work with a guy like this. Truth in the martial arts.
When we shot the rest of the scene where he sidekicks me, and he sidekicked me so hard, I mean, Bruce hit like a mule, that in one of the scenes when he hit me, I flew back and one of the stuntmen behind me, his arms got broken from the impact.
He decided to show me one of his kicks, and I said, okay, I stand behind the heavy bag, and here's this little guy, 135 pounds maybe. And even back in New York, not too many even karate or kung fu guys, if I stood behind a heavy bag, could move me. Well, I was standing behind a heavy bag, and he said something like, "Okay, you ready?" And I said, "I'm ready." So he threw a really great side kick, and like I moved. I moved like I nearly went through the door. So whether it was taken by surprise or whatever, I said I was really impressed. I mean, a little guy like that moved me, and I've had guys 6 foot tall, 180, 90 pounds. Can't really like move me from the bag. So I was really impressed. Later on, he showed me his kick, and he had probably about 5 or 6 boards, up to about maybe 6, 7 inches thick, and he did a side kick on it. He broke that.
When Bruce went back to Hong Kong in 1964, there was the time that his father passed away, and he wanted to rekindle the Wing Chun with the Wing Chun people. So he went back to pay visit to Sifu Yip Man, and also went to see Wang Shen Leung. But Bruce already take on to something sort of another level of martial art, speed and power. So he decided to do some chisel with Wang Shen Leung, and then he actually gave Wang Shen Leung a very hard time because his speed and power was dominating the whole exercise. Most martial artists, they want to learn, like in a couple of hours, they want to learn the whole system. And Bruce, no. Bruce would stay on to do one technique. When we first start, we just do basics. And Bruce would never come up and say, show me another move, show me another training drill. No, he would stay on. Sometimes I would say, "Oh, Bruce, I want to show you something new." No, I want to, he said he wanted to master that first. So in fact, he influenced me, he inspired me. So we would be doing, when we train something very simple, very basic. So our basic is so good, the foundation is so good. So later on, he can build on and also improve my coordination, reflexes, balance, everything.
A lot of people want to know about Bruce's real kung fu. Yep, he's got it. I remember one incident. Yeah, there's a guy doing a lot of kung fu shapes. Some tiger and crane fist it was. At that time, Bruce Lee was walking by. Just walked past him, and then the bloke said to him, "Oi, Bruce, you're good on the movies, but can you do it in real life, mate?" Bruce goes, he said, "Oh, you want to have a go then?" And he goes, "I'll meet you at lunchtime, we'll have a bout, we'll have a test." Everybody, we took our lunch boxes, sat down and had a look. We were waiting for this fight between Bruce and this tiger and crane man. So the guy went up to Bruce and had a go at him. He hadn't even moved, and Bruce had just smashed him. How did he hit him? Right, I'll show you how. Bruce was like this, jumping up and down, quite relaxed. Bang! He hit the bloke in the face, and again in the face. Bruce, the guy didn't get one shot in at Bruce, and Bruce had already massacred the bloke's face. He was very relaxed and very powerful at the same time. Bruce told me this. He said he wouldn't hit high, he wouldn't kick high, it'd be all like this. Quick moves like that. Grabs and smashes. I would never kick high like that, no, it's just for the movies. He wants the quick, short and effective techniques to get the bloke on the floor.
I saw Bruce Lee demonstrate at June Lee's tournament. I had seen him do that type of technology before, so I was impressed because I knew the individual. Most people were not aware of what they were seeing, so they were in awe. They were really in awe. Most karate people were anti-Bruce Lee because he was different from what they were doing. They were like robots, and he was like a fluid snake. He was able to weave, bounce, jump, duck. He used boxing, wrestling, everything. That's why he was such an excellent martial artist.
My experience with Bruce is different than Taki's and Roy's because I was younger than Bruce. So Bruce looked on me as like a younger brother, whereas he was actually drawing knowledge from Taki and Roy and from my uncle, Fred, who was a judo sensei. And it was interesting, but again, Bruce, when you came in contact with him, he would influence your life, and that's my uncle being in the martial arts. I remember around the table, he said, "Boy, I've met this Chinese little kid, punk kid, and he's just something special." And he knew it then. And it was just a few weeks later that I was able to meet Bruce. And I was influenced by him. I could see that special package that he had, that he brought. Bruce's sense of humor was always there. And one time he went up to the center post that went all straight from the basement all the way to the second floor. He went up to this and he says, "Fred, watch this." And then he started just going like this to this post. And it started shaking the house. And he just kept doing it a little bit more and more. And it got to the point where my aunt ran in from the kitchen and said, "There's an earthquake, there's an earthquake," because Bruce was shaking the house so much that the floor was going like this. The furniture was actually kind of jumping off of the floor, and that the plates and the glasses were just, falling out of the cupboards. And my aunt came out yelling, "Earthquake, earthquake," and she looked at, my uncle, and my uncle just had this quizzical look on his face, said, "Oh, it's not my fault, it's," he pointed to Bruce, and then Bruce just had that impish grin on his face and just shrugged his shoulders. But then there was Bruce's sense of humor right there.
Martial art include all the combative arts like karate or
Judo.
karate, judo, Chinese kung fu or Chinese boxing, whatever you call it. All those. You see, like Aikido, Korean, I can go on and on and on. But it's a combative form of fighting. I mean, it's not, some of them became sport, but some of them are still not. I mean, they use, for instance, kicking to the groin, jabbing fingers at the eyes and things like that.
I remember one day, he picks up a 75-pound barbell. He locks down in position, in standing position, starts on his chest, and he sticks it straight out like this, slow motion. But holds it, sustains it. Try it. Try it with half that weight, and then you know what 75 pounds feels like. And I know guys who can bench press 500 pounds. They can get it out, but they can't hold it. They'll go like this. As soon as it gets out, they fall. So he was pretty strong.
What was the most impressive, feat of physical feat you saw Bruce do? That you recall?
Well, what I was most impressed with was the fact that, because I see people lift 300 and 400 pounds with bench presses and stuff like that. The most impressive is Bruce's tremendous timing and sense of distance in fighting. and he could read an opponent. That's what impressed me. It's like he was psychic.
He could anticipate it.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. And he was so brilliant mentally that he can take anything you show him and make it 400% better.
No kidding. Yeah. By analyzing.
Yeah.
Things that Bruce Lee did, and this is what people don't realize. What he did, a lot of people can't do. Like, he could really shell shock a person with his lead jab. A lot of people can't now. We could score with that. We could put the guy off balance with it. We might even hurt him, but we can't take a man out. He had tremendous power, and we don't have that.
I wouldn't go in the ring with him. I wouldn't. I mean, he is that fast and that effective, and especially his punching power. And I know anybody get hit with his punch, will be knocked out.
When I say Bruce was a fighter, I'm not saying that he was a good tournament fighter. I'm saying I'll put him against anybody, any weight division, any size, any background, and I'll put my money on him as a fighter.
Considered him by far the greatest, and for those who don't consider him the greatest, at least he would be the top candidate for being he who would actually be the greatest.